In 1945, American soldiers stormed a hidden German hangar and found an aircraft so advanced it looked stolen from the future. For 70 years, its existence was buried in classified files, until modern tests revealed the Nazis had secretly built the world's first stealth weapon. Germany kept it hidden, and what soldiers found in 1945 shouldn't have existed. In April 1945, as the Third Reich collapsed, a small U.S. unit entered a wooded area near Friedrichsroda, expecting abandoned trucks or fuel dumps. Instead, they found a steel blast door built into a hillside, unmarked, unguarded, and strangely intact. When engineers blew it open, they stepped into a massive underground hangar, lit by sunlight streaming through cracks in the ceiling. And in the center of the concrete floor sat an aircraft that should not have existed in World War II. The craft had no tail, no fuselage, no vertical stabilizer, just a smooth predatory triangle. Soldiers had seen German jets like the Me-262, but this machine looked alien. Its wooden skin was polished smooth. Its curves were seamless. The shape matched nothing in Allied intelligence reports or German manufacturing lists. One officer wrote that it looked like a plane built 40 years too early. When U.S. technical teams arrived, their confusion grew. The aircraft was built from plywood bonded with a strange resin. The glue contained carbon powder, something unseen in aviation materials of the time. Its internal frame mixed steel tubing with composite layers far ahead of any 1940s engineering. The aircraft's jet intakes were shaped to reduce turbulence, something only modern stealth aircraft attempt. Even the wings had a blended curvature used decades later on American flying wings. More troubling was what wasn't there. No paperwork, no test logs, no production tags. Everything that should have documented its existence had been removed. Intelligence officers swept the facility and found only a few burnt documents in a furnace. Someone had tried to erase the program before fleeing. Within 24 hours, the discovery was classified and the aircraft, unfinished, mysterious, and far beyond the technology of the era, was shipped out under guard. Historians later learned its name, the Horten Ho 229, the world's first stealth-capable aircraft, and the final secret of a regime desperate for a miracle weapon. Germany had hidden this project so deeply that even many Luftwaffe officers didn't know it existed. The hangar's remote location, the erased documents, and the incomplete prototype proved how far the Reich went to conceal it. But the most startling realization came decades later, when engineers compared the craft's design with modern radar models. They discovered that the wooden airframe and carbon-infused glue reduced radar reflection dramatically. This wasn't coincidence. It was intentional, making the Ho 229 the first aircraft in history to demonstrate real stealth capability. As one analyst said when the files were finally declassified, this plane didn't belong to 1945. It belonged to the future. But to understand how such an impossible aircraft came to exist, you have to go back to two brothers working in a tiny German garage, long before the war began. The origins of the secret weapon. Two brothers and a forbidden dream. In the 1920s, Germany was a defeated nation stripped of its right to build military aircraft. The Treaty of Versailles banned powered flight, engines, and airframes. But there was one loophole: gliders were still allowed. Young aviation enthusiasts across Germany flocked to the hills, building wooden gliders and launching them off slopes for sport. Among them were two brothers, Walter and Reimar Horten, teenagers obsessed with breaking the rules of flight. While others copied traditional airplane shapes, the Hortens saw inefficiency everywhere. A normal plane had a fuselage, a tail, vertical fins, and stabilizers, parts that dragged through the air, wasting fuel and speed. Reimar asked a simple question: what if a plane were only a wing? No tail, no body, no drag, just one aerodynamic sweep slicing the air with perfect efficiency. They began building prototypes in their parents' garage using plywood, fabric, and glue. Their designs looked strange, wide, curved wings without bodies, but they flew with incredible stability. Their gliders stayed aloft longer than traditional ones and handled air currents with ease. They had accidentally created what modern engineers now call the flying wing, a design known today for efficiency and stealth. But in the 1920s, nobody understood what they were seeing. Traditional engineers dismissed the brothers as eccentric experimenters. Their work had no military support, no industry backing, no recognition. For years, their talent went unnoticed until the political climate shifted. When the Nazi regime rose to power, the new Luftwaffe began searching for unconventional designs that could restore German dominance. Suddenly, the Horten brothers' forbidden gliders caught official attention. Their ideas aligned perfectly with Germany's ambition: a faster, more efficient aircraft that could outrun Allied fighters and carry heavier payloads. Still, their breakthrough would not come until 1943, when Germany began losing the air war and needed a miracle weapon to turn the tide. This desperation opened the door the brothers had waited for their entire lives. Their flying wing was no longer a curiosity, it was a potential game changer. And what came next would push their design far beyond gliders and into the realm of groundbreaking jet technology. The opportunity arrived with a challenge so extreme that most engineers called it impossible, until the Hortens proved otherwise. Göring's impossible order, the 3 × 1,000 aircraft challenge. By 1943, Germany was collapsing from above. Allied bombers pounded cities night after night. The Luftwaffe was losing pilots faster than it could replace them, and fuel shortages crippled every remaining squadron. In the middle of this crisis, Hermann Göring, desperate and furious, issued an order that most engineers considered insane. He called it the 3 × 1,000 requirement. Any new aircraft must carry 1,000 kilograms of bombs, fly 1,000 kilometers, and reach 1,000 kilometers per hour. It was an impossible equation. No existing aircraft even came close. Traditional piston engines stalled out long before reaching those speeds. Early jet engines could reach higher velocities, but they guzzled fuel so quickly that flying 1,000 kilometers was out of the question. Engineers from major firms, Messerschmitt, Junkers, Focke-Wulf, reviewed the order and quietly dismissed it. Some thought Göring had lost touch with reality. Others assumed the requirement was a political stunt, not a real project. But 2 people didn't laugh: Walter and Reimar Horten. Their flying wing design, ignored for years, suddenly made perfect sense. With no fuselage, no tail, and minimal drag, a flying wing could fly faster and longer using the same engines as a conventional aircraft. It wasted almost no energy, pushing unnecessary surfaces through the air. The Horten brothers ran the numbers and realized something astonishing. Their design could theoretically hit all 3 of Göring's impossible targets. When they presented the concept to Luftwaffe leaders, the response was immediate. Göring was stunned. He believed he had just discovered the miracle weapon he had been praying for. Instead of burdening the brothers with the usual bureaucracy, he gave them something almost unheard of in the Nazi war machine: unlimited priority. They could take materials from any factory, hire any personnel, bypass paperwork, and test whenever they wanted. Every roadblock was removed overnight. With this order, the Hortens suddenly had the power to build a machine decades ahead of its time. But the pressure was immense. Germany needed results fast. If they failed, the project would be buried like so many other secret programs. If they succeeded, they would rewrite aviation history. The challenge ignited a frantic race against time. Jet engines were being refined at breakneck speed, raw materials were scarce, and Allied bombers were destroying factories faster than engineers could rebuild them. Still, the Horten brothers pressed forward, sketching and cutting and shaping what they believed could be the future of flight. A sleek, jet-powered flying wing unlike anything in the sky. As one engineer later wrote, the 3 × 1,000 order killed dozens of aircraft concepts, but it gave birth to one legend. And under this impossible pressure, the world's first stealth jet began to take shape. A ghost plane built from wood, steel, and ambition. The ghost plane takes shape, a jet-powered flying wing. With Göring's full backing, the Horten brothers moved from garage builders to leaders of one of the Third Reich's most radical aviation projects. Their creation would be officially designated the Horten HO-229, a jet-powered flying wing unlike anything ever attempted. Everything about the aircraft was unconventional, starting with the materials. At a time when most nations built planes from aluminum, the Hortons used laminated plywood, steel tubing, and a strange adhesive mixture that included carbon dust. This wasn't improvisation, it was innovation. The wooden structure reduced radar reflectivity, the carbon-infused glue added strength without the weight of metal, and the aerodynamic shape, smooth, curved, almost organic, eliminated the angles that caused drag and turbulence. To future engineers, these choices would look like stealth technology. But in 1944, they looked like madness. The aircraft's power came from two Jumo 004 jet engines, the same engines used in the Me-262. But on the Ho-229, they sat embedded inside the wings, turning the entire frame into a single aerodynamic weapon. The design promised speeds close to 1,000 kilometers per hour, nearly double the velocity of many Allied fighters. And because the flying wing wasted almost no lift, it could travel far longer on far less fuel, an ability no jet-powered aircraft of the era possessed. Test flights of the unpowered prototype shocked observers. Pilots reported unmatched smoothness and stability. Engineers marveled at its gliding range. When the first powered prototype lifted off, it climbed faster than expected, handled crosswinds gracefully, and displayed performance that Allied intelligence later admitted was years beyond contemporary aviation. But the HO-229 wasn't just fast and efficient, it was practically invisible to radar. Wooden skin reflected almost no radio waves. Carbon dust absorbed what little signal hit its surface. Its wing shape minimized reflections even further. When American radar experts tested a full-scale replica decades later, they confirmed what no one in 1945 had understood. The Ho-229 was the first stealth aircraft in history. Inside Germany, however, the project existed in near-total secrecy. Only a handful of officers even knew of its development. Production lines were being prepared in underground facilities. Engineers believed they were creating a weapon that could change the war, one capable of reaching Britain or intercepting bombers with unprecedented speed. As one Luftwaffe officer wrote after seeing the prototype, it was not an airplane, it was a prophecy. But while the aircraft was revolutionary, its purpose would reveal an even darker side of the program, one that could have changed the fate of entire cities. The first stealth aircraft ever built, decades before America's B-2. When American intelligence officers first examined the captured Horton Ho-229, they expected aluminum skin, rivets, and familiar German engineering. Instead, they found something no Allied or Axis engineer had ever imagined. The aircraft's outer shell was made almost entirely of plywood, layered and bonded with a resin mixed with fine carbon dust. At first, the Americans assumed this was a desperate wartime shortcut, Germany running out of aluminum. But radar specialists saw something else. The shape and materials were nearly invisible to 1940s radar. When the HO-229's remains were brought to the United States under a classified retrieval program, analysts performed early radar cross-section tests and discovered that radio waves passed through the wooden skin instead of bouncing back. The carbon-loaded glue absorbed electromagnetic energy, and the smooth, sweeping curves of the flying wing design prevented the sharp reflections that normal planes produced. It wasn't just harder to detect, it was designed to disappear. Decades later, in 2009, Northrop Grumman engineers built a full-scale replica and tested it with authentic World War II radar systems. The results confirmed the impossible. The Ho-229 would have appeared only as a tiny blip, if it appeared at all. A British radar officer reviewing the test results said, "This was stealth before stealth existed." But stealth wasn't the only futuristic aspect. The aircraft's internal design showed aerodynamic principles that wouldn't become mainstream until the late 20th century. The wing incorporated blended leading edges, smooth transitions between surfaces, and optimized airflow channels around the embedded jet engines. Even the engine intakes were shaped to minimize turbulence and reduce detection. Modern engineers recognized these features instantly. They were nearly identical to the design principles behind America's B-2 Spirit, which entered service in 1997. Yet the HO-229 was built in 1944. What stunned historians most was how accidental this stealth capability seemed. The Horten brothers wanted fuel efficiency and speed. They used wood because it reduced drag and structural weight. They added carbon because it strengthened the plywood. They designed a smooth wing because it improved aerodynamics. And yet, these choices together created a radar profile decades ahead of its time. Inside the Luftwaffe, only a handful of people understood what the aircraft could truly do. Had it been deployed, the HO-229 could have crossed the English Channel undetected, struck targets with little warning, retreated before Allied fighters even reached altitude. It was the one German aircraft that might have changed the air war if it had flown sooner. As one U.S. intelligence analyst later admitted, "We didn't just capture a plane, we captured the blueprint for the next half-century of aviation." But hidden inside the project's classified documents was a darker truth. This stealth aircraft wasn't built just for speed or science. It was built for a devastating mission. The dark secret: it was designed to deliver a doomsday payload. When American forces raided the Horten hangar, they found more than just aircraft parts. In a damaged steel cabinet near the back wall, intelligence officers recovered fragments of mission documents and engineering notes. Most were burned, but one page survived, and it revealed something far more disturbing than anyone expected. The HO-229's bomb load requirement, 1,000 kilograms, was not random. It matched experimental payloads from Germany's secret radiological weapons program. Germany, lacking the resources to build a full atomic bomb, had turned to developing a dirty bomb, a device that combined conventional explosives with radioactive byproducts from failed nuclear experiments. The explosion itself wouldn't level a city, but the fallout would poison entire regions, making cities like London, Antwerp, or Allied staging grounds uninhabitable for years. The HO-229, with its stealth-like design and near supersonic speed, was the perfect delivery system. Allied radar would see it only minutes before impact, far too late to scramble fighters. Its range placed Britain squarely in reach. And had the project matured, the aircraft could have delivered a non-atomic radiological weapon that would have caused mass evacuation, widespread panic, and long-term contamination. Even more unsettling was what American intelligence found in the blueprints stored beside the aircraft. Plans for a massive intercontinental flying wing called the Horten Ho-18th. With 6 jet engines and extended fuel tanks, it was designed to cross the Atlantic, strike New York, Washington, or other U.S. cities, and return to Europe. The aircraft was never finished, but the design showed Germany had already envisioned a world where long-range stealth bombers could reshape global warfare. Historians later discovered that Nazi scientists had begun refining radioactive isotopes for dirty bomb use as late as early 1945. The HO-229's role wasn't speculative, it was strategic. Germany intended to use stealth not for reconnaissance or defense, but for catastrophic, morale-shattering attacks that circumvented Allied air superiority. One intelligence officer wrote in a classified memo, "If this aircraft had entered production, we might be telling a very different story today." It became clear that the HO-229 was not just a technological leap. It was a weapon built for a desperate final act, a last attempt to turn the war through fear and devastation. But even with its advanced design, the Nazis still needed a place safe from Allied bombs to build it, leading to one of the darkest construction sites of the entire war: the hidden factories beneath the mountains. As 1944 turned into 1945, German cities were being erased from the map. Allied bombers destroyed aircraft plants faster than engineers could rebuild them. The Luftwaffe was desperate, and Hitler demanded new secret weapons that could survive the relentless air raids. That desperation pushed the regime to create one of the most disturbing engineering projects of the entire war: an underground industrial empire hidden beneath the Ural Mountains of what is now Poland. This complex was known as Project Riese, meaning giant. Project Riese was not a single tunnel, but a sprawling network carved into solid rock, stretching for kilometers beneath the mountains. Inside these caverns, the Nazis built massive chambers tall enough for locomotives, long corridors for assembly lines, and reinforced floors that could support heavy machinery. Rail lines were drilled into the stone so trains could enter directly into the mountain. Air vents the size of factory chimneys were installed to manage heat and smoke from industrial production. These tunnels were to become the final hiding place of Germany's remaining advanced weapons programs, including the Horten HO-229. The construction of Ries came at a horrific cost. To achieve such massive excavation in so little time, the Nazis relied on forced labor from concentration camps. Thousands of prisoners from Gross Rosen and its satellite camps worked with pickaxes and bare hands, often for 16 to 20 hours a day. They were starved, beaten, and exposed to freezing temperatures and toxic dust. Tens of thousands died inside the tunnels, buried in the very walls they carved. Survivors later said the mountains sounded alive, with constant drilling, explosions, and the echoes of human suffering. It was in these caverns that Germany planned to move production of its most secret aircraft, weapons, and research projects. Documents recovered after the war show that underground factories were being prepared for mass production of the HO-229. Skilled engineers would assemble jet engines, airframes, and advanced avionics in total darkness, hidden from Allied surveillance. Once completed, the aircraft would be rolled out through camouflage tunnel exits and sent directly to frontline airfields. These facilities were designed to make the program bomb-proof, yet Germany ran out of time. By early 1945, Allied forces were advancing faster than expected. The underground complex was nowhere near complete. Huge chambers stood empty, machinery remained uninstalled, and entire sections were flooded with groundwater. As US and Soviet troops approached, SS guards attempted to destroy parts of the tunnels, but much of Ries survived, an unfinished monument to a secret war industry that never fully awakened. When American troops later examined evidence from the tunnels, they realized just how close the Reich had come. If the HO-229 program had moved underground early enough, Germany might have produced dozens of stealth jets beyond the reach of Allied bombing. A single year, maybe even a few months, stood between failure and a devastating new phase of the war. As one historian later wrote, Project Ries wasn't a factory, it was a warning of what the Nazis planned next. But fate intervened first. Before the flying wing could be mass-produced, catastrophe struck during a test flight, ending the program in a single fiery moment. The crash that ended the program. By February 1945, months of frantic development also had produced the second powered prototype of the Horten HO-229, designated V2. Despite the constant threat of Allied bombers and the chaos spreading across Germany, engineers managed to assemble the aircraft at an airfield outside Oranienburg. Test pilot Erwin Ziller, one of the few pilots trained to fly such an unconventional aircraft, was chosen to take the prototype into the sky. Ziller understood the risks. The HO-229 had no tail, no rudder, and minimal stability controls. While revolutionary in design, it demanded exceptional skill. But the Luftwaffe needed results, and Ziller climbed into the cockpit on a cold February day for what would become one of the most fateful test flights of the war. Moments after takeoff, witnesses described the flying wing slicing through the air smoother than any German jet. It climbed rapidly, its twin Jumo 004 engines roaring with a sound engineers described as otherworldly. Then disaster struck. At roughly 800 meters altitude, the right engine suddenly caught fire, a common but deadly flaw in early jet technology. In a normal aircraft, a pilot could compensate for losing one engine using the tail and rudder. But the HO-229 had neither. Its entire control system depended on symmetrical thrust. With one engine gone, the aircraft became unstable instantly. Ziller fought to keep it level, but the aircraft began spinning, its wide wings catching the air like a sail. Eyewitnesses saw the flying wing tumble downward, trailing smoke. Its radical design turned into a death trap by asymmetrical thrust. Seconds later, it slammed into the ground and exploded. Ziller was killed instantly. His death was more than a tragedy. It was a fatal blow to the HO-229 program. Ziller had been the only test pilot trained to handle its unusual flight characteristics. Without him, no one else could safely fly the prototype. And with the war collapsing, there was no time to train a replacement. 3 weeks later, as American forces pushed deeper into Germany, they reached the Horten facility and discovered the nearly complete V-3 prototype. Tools were still on the workbenches. Blueprints lay unrolled on tables. It was clear the engineers had fled in a hurry. The aircraft, never flown, was seized and disassembled. The Third Reich's last hope for a miracle weapon ended not with a battue, but with a single failed engine. Engineers who later studied the wreckage agreed, had the engine not failed, Germany might have fielded the world's first stealth interceptor. But the timing was unforgiving. A single fire changed the future. In the words of one American officer, the war ended just in time. And what the Allies did next with the captured aircraft would shape the next era of aviation, far beyond what the Hortens ever imagined. America takes the secret home and builds the future. When U.S. forces captured the nearly complete HO-229 V-3, they treated it like a treasure from another world. Under an intelligence sweep similar to Operation Paperclip, engineers dismantled the aircraft piece by piece and shipped it to the United States. But instead of being displayed or studied openly, the flying wing vanished into a restricted Smithsonian storage vault, where it stayed out of public view for decades. Inside these vaults, military contractors quietly examined every detail: the carbon-loaded adhesive, the swept wooden wings, the internal jet alignment. One American engineer later said, "It was like finding the missing chapter of aviation." Meanwhile, aircraft visionary Jack Northrop, already experimenting with flying wings, gained access to the captured data. For him, the HO-229 wasn't a curiosity, it was confirmation that he had been right all along. Its aerodynamic solutions shaped his later prototypes and eventually influenced the design philosophy behind the Northrop B-2 Spirit, America's first operational stealth bomber. Historians now agree the HO-229 didn't just disappear. It reappeared 50 years later, wearing American markings. And when the truth finally surfaced, the world realized how close Germany came to changing history. 70 years later, the secret weapon is no longer a mystery. In 2009, engineers built a full-scale replica of the HO-229 and tested it using World War II-era radar systems. The results shocked even the skeptics. The aircraft really was stealth-capable, appearing as a tiny radar echo instead of a bomber-sized threat. The Horten design had accomplished in 1944 what the rest of the world wouldn't master until the late 20th century. Declassified German documents later revealed something even more unsettling. The Nazis intended to arm the HO-229 with radiological payloads, hoping a stealth attack would cripple enemy cities without warning. Combined with the long-range points for the HO-18th, the Reich came dangerously close to pioneering modern strategic bombing decades early. Historians now call the HO-229 the missing link between Nazi wonder weapons and Cold War stealth technology. A weapon hidden for 70 years finally made sense. It wasn't a myth, or an accident, or an experiment. It was the world's first true stealth aircraft, built too late to matter, but advanced enough to change everything that came after. Germany's last secret weapon didn't reshape the war, but it reshaped the future. The truth is finally out. Germany's hidden aircraft didn't change World War II, but it changed every stealth weapon that came after it.